and welcome to the November edition of the Great British Mickey Waffle. For this episode, we were hoping to board the Skyliner, but we saw the queue and changed our minds. So here we are at Hollywood Studios, waiting for a friendship to Epcot instead. I'm Gill, your captain for the ride, and I'm going to be making sure we all reach our destination in comfort and safety. Sailing with me today, we have Ben, Becca, Sammie, Claire, Lloyd, John and Peter. Say hello, folks.
Hello.
Hello, folks.
Hi.
Right, are we ready, everyone? Claire, finish your wine before you get on, please. No, Sammie, they don't sell chicken nuggets on board. You'll just have to wait. Ben, you can't rent a friendship with DVC points. That's just silly. Becca, don't tease Lloyd because he brought his poncho with him. No, Lloyd, there are no zombies on the boats. Some of us are a bit jet-lagged, that's all. John, don't forget your notebook for your trip report. Yes, Peter? No, you can't. You had half an hour to take care of that. Oh, go on then, hurry up. Ah, here comes our friendship. Come on, everyone. Everybody in? Good. Now then, please remain seated until we reach International Gateway. Yes, that means you, Peter. I don't care what shot you're trying to get for your video. I'm not spending the evening pulling you out of Crescent Lake. As we slowly chug along to the Swan and Dolphin, let's have the first round of a new feature called Carousel of Questions. And this time Ben is going to pose some quick questions to Claire. See if you agree with her choices.
Favourite park?
Epcot.
Ride that you hate?
Soaring.
Most overrated snack?
Mickey Premium Bars.
Favourite transportation mode in Walt Disney World?
Ferry Cross Seven Seas Lagoon.
Favourite table service restaurant?
The Boathouse.
Resort you haven't stayed at but want to more than anything else on earth?
Wilderness Lodge.
Favourite car park?
The Orange Car Park at Disney Springs.
Typhoon, Blizzard or Volcano Bay?
Typhoon, definitely.
Galaxy's Edge or Diagon Alley?
Diagon Alley.
Early morning or late night park visit?
Early morning.
Keep the magic or backstage detail?
Definitely backstage detail.
Favourite other podcast or vlogger about Disney?
WDW Radio with Lou Mongello.
On-site or off-site?
Off-site.
Thanks, guys. Some very illuminating answers there. Oh, sorry, John. I said illuminating, not illuminations. Please don't start crying again. Quick, let's change the subject. Sammie and Lloyd, why don't you tell us about your recent holiday?
So I was staying at Cabana Bay in September for a week. I was there mainly to do Halloween Horror Nights, but managed to squeeze in a Disney day along with some days in the Universal parks. I also managed to ride the new Hagrid ride, which is amazing. There were so many surprises because I hadn't watched any ride videos or anything. I got into the queue when the time was about 90 minutes, but I was in and out within an hour, and I totally recommend the ride. I would wait probably at least 2 hours for it if it was busy because it was just that good. It might be my new favourite ride at Universal, but I still have to ride it a few more times to be sure. I also did an Unmasking the Horror tour, which consists of being taken around the Halloween Horror Nights houses with the lights on. There's a 3-house tour and a 6-house tour, and I did the 3-house version. I had done this tour before for Halloween Horror Nights 25 and loved it. It's a fab way to see some houses, plus all the detail that goes into them, and find out where the scares come from, because if you're a chicken like me, that's the information that you need to know. This was my second year trying Halloween Horror Nights. Last year was my first time, and I managed to do a maximum number of 1 out of 10 houses, so I didn't have much of a bar to beat this year. But I managed to beat it. I managed to do all 10 houses, which I'm super, super proud of. On both nights, I had a special guest. So on night 1 was Phil Waffler Lloyd, who will tell you about his holiday in a minute. And then on the second night, I went with my friend Liz, who is a seasoned Halloween Horror Nights goer. so I was definitely in safe hands. I had an absolute blast at the event, and I now think I've caught the Halloween Horror Nights bug. I would totally recommend it, even for people that are scared like I was, and I still am scared. Don't get me wrong, but I really enjoyed it, and it's definitely worth going. So if you guys have any questions about my trip or Halloween Horror Nights or the Unmasking the Horror Tour, you can ask those.
On your Disney day, did you finally get around to managing to watch Illuminations?
I did, because I was forced to.
And what did you think?
It was really good. I enjoyed it for what I could see of it anyway. But it was really good, and I enjoyed the kind of intro to it. That was really fun and kind of like gives you that little bit of excitement, that little kind of chill. But yeah, no, I really, really enjoyed it.
What was your favourite scare zone?
So for me, the scare zones were actually quite weak this year compared to last year. They were much better. But I'd say my favourite was maybe Vanity Ball. I like that. There was a lot of good interactions with the scare actors. But like I said, I felt like the scare zones were quite weak this year. But that's just my opinion.
How many pairs of trousers did you go through on your tube lights?
No comment.
I don't know how you do it, to be honest with you. There's just no way that I would be able to cope with Halloween Horror Nights.
Would you recommend it for wimps?
Do you know what? I would, even if you don't do the houses. I think the event is just great. It's a great way to get onto the rides with like little to no wait. And the scare zones are a bit of a precursor, to houses. So I think if you can do the scare zones, you can do the houses. So I think it's a good way to kind of build up your tolerance to it.
How family friendly is it though, Sammie? If you're travelling there with a family, is it suitable for children from maybe ages 10 upwards, or is it still a little bit older than that?
I would say it's older than that. I personally wouldn't take anyone kind of, your own children, obviously.
Yeah.
If they watch horror movies and stuff and love it, then that's completely different. They'll be fine. But if you don't let them watch that, there's gore in some of the scare zones and stuff. So I would say that definitely at least a teenager. But like I said, it really depends child to child.
Yeah. So it's very different than the Disney sort of not so scary sort of Halloween experience, isn't it?
I've never been to Mickey's Not So Scary Party, but I know for a fact it's nothing like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh no, thanks for that.
To get on the rides, if you're going to use the opportunity to ride the rides without much of a queue, how easy is it to get there to the ride entrances without having to go through scare zones? Because I really don't fancy dodging people with chainsaws just to get to Rip Ride Rocket.
It's not. You can't get to the rides without going through the scare zones.
Right.
Take the periphery. You can kind of walk around like the edge or walk with a bit of pace.
Yeah.
I did a little bit of that. Just tried to get from ride to ride, and you can see some of the scares coming in the scare zones. So you can kind of do a little bit of dodging.
Are the scare actors sensitive to the fact that people don't like it? Do they go for the people that look like they're scared, or do they avoid them?
Neither. They do both. They won't give you any slack. Trust me, they won't. If you're at the event, then you're fair game.
If you're not paying attention, they'll go for you. They look for
really?
people who aren't really paying attention to what's going on around them, like looking at your phone or anything like that. They're the people they'll target.
Just no way I could do it. Yeah, Lloyd, what are you doing? Are you free? I mean,
the Waffle human shield.
you are. You rent you out. Can Emma rent you out? And we can all borrow you one by one.
Yeah. I do jump though.
Did you get a twisted tater, Sammie?
I did. I got a twisted tater. There's 4 flavours. It's seasoned salt and vinegar, garlic parmesan, and sour cream and chive. And we had the sour cream and chive because I gave Lloyd half of it. And it was good. What did you think?
A tiny little bit. I didn't have half.
No, you did not. That is an absolute lie, by the way. He got half of it easy.
Is it like Pringles,
I had half the
sour
sour
cream and chive
powder
flavour?
or whatever.
Yeah, a little bit. It's kind of like the dust bit. It's a bit more intense, isn't it, Lloyd? How would you explain it?
it's a lot more flavoursome. I've just had some sour cream and onion Pringles before, and if sour cream and onion Pringles are about a 3, the twisted taters are about 7, 7.5 on a taste profile of 1 to 10.
Okay, if Pringles would like to sponsor us, and do get in touch.
Other flavours of crisps are available, and brands.
Other kinds of snacks are available.
But there's also if you go to America, when you're in America, Pringles do the most amazing dill pickle flavoured Pringles as well.
And ranch dressing as well, I hear.
Yeah.
Pizza Pringles are nice.
Yeah.
Sounds weird, but it's true.
After that word from our sponsor, over to Lloyd.
Right, so we a little bit of crossover with Sam when we were there as well. We had 2 weeks at Cabana Bay. This time I was travelling as a family of 4. We had a car, which there were pros and cons to, which I don't really want to step on the toes of another little feature that's coming up this show, so I'll save that part. I'll just start with the start of the trip. So we had a little bit of travel luck going. We were flying with TUI on the Dreamliner from Manchester to Sanford, and we tried our little hack of taking a pushchair for Bo, and we were taken out the main security line and put in the fast track line. So that got us through security at Manchester really, really quickly. We had nice extra legroom seats on TUI, and TUI legroom seems to be a bit more than the standard anyway that we've experienced on other flights. Then when we got to Sanford, really quick off the plane, and then when we were in the line for immigration, because we had the 2 little ones with us, we were again escorted out of the line into our very own special line, and we were through immigration in about 7 minutes, something like that, from getting in the line to the other side. Our cases were the first off, which was good. And then we just realised we hadn't got the car seats, so we were thinking it was going to be another half an hour for that to come out. But then all of a sudden that popped through the little window, so we had all our cases, and we were pretty much the first people off the plane to reach Alamo to pick up our hire car. So we went over to get our premium hire car. The guy tried to upgrade us for free to a minivan, but we kept the premium. We got a nice Chevy Impala, and then we headed off to the hotel. And then we were pretty much at Cabana Bay for 2 weeks. We weren't going to do the parks at all. I was doing Halloween Horror Nights for the Great British Mickey Waffle. And we last minute decided to take 1 day at Walt Disney World. So we had 1 day at Magic Kingdom in the middle of the trip. It was a great family holiday, even though we weren't doing the parks. And we didn't really feel that we were missing anything during the whole holiday until we had the Disney little oasis in the centre. And it was just not a realization, but it was kind of more of it added something to the holiday. So we weren't missing anything before, but it was really nice to have that Disney hit right in the middle. We had a night in Saratoga Springs with rented DVC points. Spent the day in Saratoga Springs using the pools. The pools were fantastic for the boys. There's a great splash pad and a great slide. And this was just in the paddock pool. It wasn't even in the main pool. And then we wandered into Disney Springs in the evening because we could walk to it from Saratoga Springs. Had a great walk around, and then we hit Magic Kingdom the next day. So that was a really great addition to the holiday. And on either side of that, we had our stay in Universal. We didn't do any of the parks apart from myself, who had a little pass out to go and do the Halloween Horror Nights, which Sammie and I spoke about last episode. The first night, Halloween Horror Nights, though, I did try a little hack. Well, not really a hack, but rather than doing any of the houses, I just purely focused on rides. So I managed to do everything that was open in about, I think it was 2 hours from going into the park. And I even did I did do a house. I did the Ghostbusters house to start with. That was half an hour in and out. Then after that, I was pretty much on and off each ride as quickly as I could walk to the entrance, walk to the ride car, ride it and get off. So it's a really good way, if you're not bothered about Halloween Horror Nights in particular, and you can tolerate the scare zones to walk through, it's a really, really good way to do all the rides at Universal Studios for about, they cost me $35 for each night. So rather than paying full whack for the parks and queuing, that's a good little hack. And then I've never really felt that bothered about doing the houses themselves. But the night I went in with Sammie and we did all the, well, how many did we do? I think it was 4 or 5 houses. Some for 4. I was kind of converted. I enjoyed it. I'm not the biggest fan of horror, but it was good, and it was quite. The ones with the greater production value gave the greatest payoff, really. And I think my favourite would have been the I'm going to get it wrong, Nightingales.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nightingale's blood
brilliant.
pack,
Nightingale's blood pit, that was it. What did I call them? I call them night crawlers, didn't I? Nightingales. That was brilliant. And I think that was down to the actors as well. It was just really good, and the scares are really good. And even though it's a little bit not irritating, but it's not that enjoyable when you're getting scared every 2 seconds. It was good fun in there. Each scare was sort of more innovative than the last, so I appreciate that. Yeah, so I don't want to give you a full breakdown of the holiday because I'll save a few bits to talk about any other features. But that was our sort of 2-week non-park with a couple of little breaking the rules of going to the park trip.
Cabana Bay is seen as a value. Is it good, bad?
I've been twice now. First time I went, it was brand new. This time it's a few years old, and it doesn't quite feel like a value in terms of what you'd expect at Disney. It's got a few features there, especially the facilities on site, and especially the room options. So we stay in a family suite, and it doesn't quite feel like a value. It feels like something in between. There's definitely a sort of a gap between it and, say, Sapphire Falls. There's definitely a space there. And then I think there's a space between Sapphire Falls and Royal Pacific and the rest. So they've kind of carved out these other little pseudo categories for their hotels, because now you're going to have Endless Summer. Well, we've got Endless Summer, and that's definitely the value end of it. Cabana Bay, next step up, maybe a value plus.
So what does the family suite consist of?
Family suite, one of the biggest features of it is it's a slightly bigger room, but you've got this divide. You've got a sliding door which separates your 2 double beds and your bathroom area from a lounge area where you've got a couple of chairs, a couch, and you've got a kitchenette as well. Kitchenette, same sort of facilities as you'd get in a deluxe suite in DVC resorts. So you've got your microwave, your sort of nice size fridge coming right up to the counter. You've got a sink as well with running water there to wash all your plates and cups, etc. And but the family suites at Cabana Bay have a sort of a surfboard shaped breakfast bar as well with 2 stools. Okay. So you've got a few places to eat there. You've also got in the lounge area as well, you've got a fold out bed, so potentially you could sleep six people in there.
That's interesting. Yeah. It's not one that I've looked at before, but it would work for a family like mine, where I've got 2 children that are 10 years different in age, actually.
Definitely. And we sort of experienced a couple of times walking past a few rooms to go to the car. We'd sometimes see about, look, you keep on counting these people coming out. It was like clowns getting out of a car. It was like you count 7,
Anthill mob style. 8,
9. It's just, so you can get a lot of people in these rooms, and for quite a reasonable price as well. Considering it's within walking distance of City Walk, so you are on site at Universal.
But you don't get a front of the line pass with that hotel.
No, you don't get any front of line passes. Okay. So that's a big consideration. But if you're good at sort of tactically planning your trips into Universal Lines of Adventure, using it early mornings, which you still get, you can still do everything. You just don't get that convenience of the front of line passes.
Okay.
I tell you what they do though, Claire. Like, unlike Disney, you're allowed to pool hop, so you can use the facilities in the other hotels, and the fact that they're so close together, it's really, really easy to do as well. So we would use the rooftop bar at Aventura for a drink and to watch the sun go down, and then we go over Sapphire Falls in a day to use their pool and their slide. We spent the lion's share of an afternoon at Hard Rock using their pool and their slide as well. So it was nice. It felt like almost like a massive expansive resort, and you were just staying in one area of it, and you could just get a boat or walk over to another area, and it's a pretty good facility that Universal let you do.
That's interesting, because we're planning next year, and I'm tempted to do a few days at Universal at the end when we come home, and trying to work out which resort to stay at. And I didn't realise that Cabana Bay had family rooms, so I will go away and investigate that. Thank you.
Yeah, it definitely worked. And then they've also got the 1-bed suites as well in the towers, which might work as well for you. What I would say is we got to see the distance between Endless Summer and the rest of the resort. And even though as the crow flies, it's not a million miles away, there's kind of freeway in the way, and it's pretty much, you might as well be off site. It's just got a Universal name, and you get the extra morning, but other than that, you might as well just be on a neighbouring hotel right next to it. You know, you might as well be at the DoubleTree at the entrance to Universal and walk that distance if it's going to save you some money. So Endless Summer, even though it looks quite nice, the fact you could only get the bus to and from would really put me off.
Which was your favourite scare zone then? You didn't like Vanity Ball?
No. A guy, like, what happens in the scare zones is, especially if you're not paying attention, you'll be walking at a certain pace, then all of a sudden you'll be very aware that someone's matched your pace to your left or your right, and then you're a bit apprehensive of looking over, and then when you do, it's some kind of scare actor. But yeah, this guy was just walking next to me, and everyone's kind of wearing like hospital gowns, and it looks as if they got bits hacked off me. This guy came up to me as a match for pace. He walked up to me, and goes, "Want to see something scary?" So, right, yeah, okay. And he just went, "This," and just put a mirror right in front of my face. And started to
And that's why you didn't like it, because it was that scary.
Yeah, vanity ball. I liked Zombieland Double Tap, because you could kind of. I was trying to get through it on the first night I was there, because I was trying to get. What was I trying to get to? I think I was trying to get to the mummy, and you can kind of see them coming, because they're looking around for their next sort of victim to run after as well. So I was able to do almost like, when you're in the pedestrian area of a shopping precinct and you're avoiding the people who want to make you sign up to donate something. You could kind of do that, and do the little zigs and zags to get around them. But it was a good zone, that. Yeah, I like that scare zone. Although visually most impressive was the Pan Arcade. That was brilliant. They had lasers and smoke into the air. That looked really, really good after dark. That was cool.
Well, sounds like you both had an amazing time, and all the Halloween horror stuff sounds frightfully good. See what I did there? Yes, well, anyway. Meanwhile, back on our little boat, we are waving goodbye to the duck and tuna. Whoops, I'm in the swan and dolphin. And we're on our way to Yacht and Beach Club. Now, this is lovely being on this little boat here, but it's not exactly the fastest way to get around, is it? There are, of course, plenty of other ways to get to the parks. Yes, I think it's time to tackle that most topical of questions. Car hire. Is it worth it? And are there any other options available?
Thanks, Jill. As we live in times where Disney transportation is changing, so does the traditional modes for a holiday trip too. We've always hired a car. It's what you do, isn't it? Flights, accommodation, car, theme park tickets, and then to the rest of that planning list. That same car sat in a car park for 95% of our on-site Disney hotel stay this summer, and it never moved. Yet, proved invaluable for 100% of the time we spent off-site, both in Orlando and whilst exploring the wider sights and delights that Florida has to offer. So in a way, the thought of having a car has never been in question. Until now. We seemingly live in extraordinary times. This year, American guests have already been paying to park while staying in a Disney Resort hotel. Guests from the UK will have all of this to come from the 1st of January 2020. This move brings Disney into line with the resort parking scene at Universal and at nearly all the chain hotels locally too. American guests who travel to Florida generally stay for just a few days and then make that drive north once more. And many have no choice, as they're on a road trip which leads directly to Walt Disney World and the Sunshine State. British visitors are soon to be paying that on-site cost while staying in a Disney hotel. If you booked before June the 18th, 2019, the costs are as follows. In a value resort, $13 a night, which then amounts to $91 for a one-week stay. In a moderate, $19 a night, which is $133 for 7 nights, and in a deluxe, $24 a night, and that adds $168 for a 7-night stay. For those of you who booked after June the 18th, those prices increased by $2 a night in a value resort and $1 a night in a moderate and deluxe. Thankfully, all prices include tax and parking at theme parks. With an off-site charge of $25 for parking at each of the main theme parks, yep, they're still free at the water parks and Disney Springs, we now have a great British car conundrum upon us. The maths is individual to every single trip, but it's worth thinking about for anyone travelling in 2020, and especially if you arrive into Orlando Airport and stay on site. I'm thinking that the Disney Express will never have been so busy. I am also fully aware that amidst holiday planning and the desire to have everything sorted, that the price of parking on site will possibly become an accepted part of a holiday that costs so much in the first place. Yet, there are big savings that can be made if you stay on site, and more if you stay for more than just a couple of nights. However, there are other contributors to this new conundrum. Uber and Lyft have become big players in the Orlando area, and from experience offer a good, safe and reliable experience, which is at a very, very reasonable price. For those staying on site, a trip to Walmart, Publix or for medical essentials is easily sorted with their app for just a few dollars there and back. I did subject my family to some great British Mickey Waffle research while we were staying at Lake Wilson Preserve, which is close to Championsgate on the I-4, a place that is quite a distance and some people may instantly dismiss as too far away from the parks. Not for us, I would hasten to add. We experimented with the options to ride into the parks, and even Magic Kingdom, which is the furthest away, cost just $18 for a drop-off at Contemporary, admittedly during a quiet afternoon. We made the most in visiting Epcot, Animal Kingdom and Hollywood Studios as they were closer, and that brought the return ride price back towards that $25 that Disney charged for parking. And I would also add that a couple of beers while I was in the park so Disney didn't suffer any untoward reduction in their profit from me for that day. Both Uber and Lyft offer deals for new users and for those that have not used them in a while. They've become a really good option. No car and off-site in the Disney area has been unthinkable. Yet if you're on a 2-week trip and you have a plan that is Orlando-based, it does become a real possibility. Plus, you don't have to pay for parking in the theme parks. The on-site stay without a car needs a lot of thought and consideration for the future. On our last trip, we'd have potentially saved $240. That's 10 t-shirts in Disney merch terms, or 24 beers in the Rose and Crown at Disney prices, or even 12 brand new Disney plush. I'm not a mathematician, but I do admit being a bit tight when it comes to giving Disney, or indeed any hotel, money for absolutely nothing. For just the extra effort of dropping a car off and then getting another one when you're ready to move on. And when you add in the use of Lyft and Uber for on and off-site rides, I'm thinking I've possibly asked more questions than I've answered. But I have to admit this can only be a good thing for the British visitor in the future, and possibly not one for the car hire companies. I'm sure that this issue is going to create a lot of online discussion in the new year when the parking charges become a reality for British guests. But in the meantime, what do my fellow wafflers think? Car or no car?
No car.
No car.
Yeah, we don't have a car, so and we don't drive, so
Yeah.
Without using the car, we just used Ubers and we stayed off site. And I think it cost us in total with Ubers about $180 for the 2 weeks. And it meant
So,
so I could drink when I want.
I'm the opposite side of I'm the opposite side of the coin there. I think perhaps it makes a difference if you're travelling with a child who needs a car seat.
Yeah.
So for us, a car, I can't imagine. I mean, we tend to fly into Tampa anyway, so we need a car. But I can't imagine being on holiday for 2 and a bit weeks without a car, to be honest with you. Just the convenience of being able to drive everywhere. And yet the parking charges are the parking charges, regardless of where you go. And actually, sometimes we don't park in the parking lots. We'll valet at a hotel nearby, so we pay a bit more because it's convenient. So, but I have to say, with Millie in a car seat, there's just no way that I would take the chance with getting or not getting an Uber or a Lyft. I know the minivans have car seats available, and a lot of them do, but it's just a pain, to be honest with you. So we are a definite car, and we've done car on site as well. And actually, the time it takes to get anywhere on a Disney bus drives me mad. So we just drive. It's insane. And
I'm with you there, Claire. I can see where you're coming from, and I've always been the same. And it might be because my children have got that little bit older, but certainly this summer there appeared to be a really big difference and an opportunity in a way to maybe cut a few pound here and there off the holiday spends. But I think there's a real sway of online discussion at the moment where there's a lot of people saying, do we need a car? And I've been into Miami, been into Tampa, been into Fort Lauderdale. That's generally the precursor to the fact that, well, we just have a car for duration of stay, don't we? But I think Disney have really sort of changed the market, and And if you're staying on site and you've got the buses, the Skyliner, the friendship boats, I think there's now a chance where, I think, like I said, the car basically sat in the car park, and to spend $240 for it just to sit in a car park is
But it's not only that. It's the cost of the car hire as well, because the car hire costs for 2020 have gone through the roof. They are ridiculous. Absolutely astronomical. I was gobsmacked when I looked for next year at just how expensive it is, even for a small, compact car that we wouldn't fit in. I was shocked. They're extremely expensive. So I think if you're in a position to do it without a car, then that's good.
Yeah, and I think as well, I wonder if maybe some of the car hire places are perhaps preparing themselves for the fact that people will now drop a car off, having come from the airport, arrived on Disney property, drop off, and then it creates more paperwork and a paper chain for them, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
So
next year, looking at flight prices at the minute, and Tampa is so much cheaper than flying into Orlando, and we can just hire a car from the airport, drop it off at Disney, use Disney transportation, and then hire a car just for drive back.
Mm-hmm. And it's also much nicer as well. Tampa Airport's lovely.
We were just going to rent for a week this time.
MCO has a McDonald's.
It has a Chick-fil-A.
Nah.
Sammie needs their nuggets.
I know.
Chick-fil-A is
I need my
much
chicken
better
nuggets.
than McDonald's.
Lies and slander. No, I totally think it depends on everyone's individual situation and circumstances. I don't drive, but I just think it's so much easier and cheaper to not hire a car. I know, Claire, you were saying about Disney transport. I've never had an issue with Disney transport. Like, I think it's great. Maybe I'm just lucky.
Do you know what though? There is a little bit of me that gets a bit annoyed. This is me having a bit of a waffle rant. A bit annoyed about Disney having every bit of my money. So even if I am staying on site, I'd quite like to go and spend my dollars somewhere else, just so they don't get every single one of them. And that's my only thing really about staying on site without a car. That actually I might want to go and eat at a restaurant somewhere off site. With my family, and having a car is just so much more convenient, and I can go and spend my hard-earned money elsewhere rather than putting it all in Bob Iger's pocket.
That's totally fair, but for me, I would rather just get a Lyft or an Uber, because they're super abundant and they're cheap.
So it's like anything, you've got to make sure you work it into your budget. And both Uber and Lyft have fare estimators on their websites. So you can go on, choose your hotel and where you're going, get a rough idea of prices so that you can then compare it to how much is it going to cost me to hire a car, pay for the petrol, pay for the tolls, pay for the parking.
So someone who's not, if there was someone listening who's not used Uber or Lyft very much, because it's not in every area of the country for us, can you pay by card? Can you... basically get anything you want?
Pay by cash.
So what's the safe? Is it safe? Is there a concern that these, because my understanding is Uber drivers are privately employed. They're self-employed drivers. Where's the reassurance that you're not going to get bundled into the boot and taken off down to the swamp?
I've got to say, Claire, I think that's a really good point, because I live in an area where Uber hasn't managed to get a license, and to be honest, it filled me with a great deal of dread. And prior to going out this last visit in the summer, we hadn't used Lyft. I'd always used Uber, and a friend actually emailed me a link with 25% off my first 5 rides using Lyft. And all you do is just download the app. You actually enter your credit card details into the app, and from there, for both Uber and Lyft, you basically are charged to your credit card. Now, if you've got a credit card that actually works in dollars, which we use the Clarity one, for example, which actually allows you to get a decent rate of exchange. But it's all just done on your phone. And when you get into the car, you actually know the driver's name, the type of car, the registration of the car. And I have to admit, it's really much better than even trying to get a Mears taxi, because it's much more visible as to what you actually are meant to be going and approaching as they sort of, as they come to the meeting point as well. I've been surprised, I've got to admit, because I never thought it would be something that we would use, but we did use it a lot last summer, and I thought it was a really, really quick and easy way of doing it. The one thing I would say to anybody who's listening is, if you are a little bit clever at park kicking out time, and try to choose somewhere that's not just the general Uber and Lyft pickup point, but either choose a resort or just wait a little bit longer. Just bide your time, let the rush go. It will be a little bit cheaper, but also you'll be able to find your car that little bit easier as well.
So, for example, if you were leaving the Magic Kingdom, would you get on the monorail over to maybe the Grand Floridian or the Polynesian and get a car from there?
Yeah, I've tended to use Contemporary.
Yes.
Contemporary tends to be a really good place because they tend to direct things at Contemporary a little easier. It's much quicker for the car to find you.
Yeah, I was going to say that, like when I went, had my Disney day, and went to see Illuminations, I walked along to the, what's the name of it? Yeah, that one.
Yeah, I
only know the names of the values, okay? I walked along to the beach club and got an Uber or a Lyft. I can't remember which one. Yeah. I just checked them both, and whichever one's cheaper, that's who I book with.
Yeah, I'm the same, Sammy, and I think as well, if you just check the time, how long you have to wait for either, and you can, you carry both of them on your phone. They're very easy to use, and you either get somebody who will speak to you throughout, somebody who will maybe play some bizarre music throughout. Or
it's the same with any other taxi.
We had some amazing drivers, absolutely wonderful drivers, and just they become part of your holiday as well.
Yeah, me too. I had some great conversations with some drivers. It was great, and it's just so easy. No cash. It's all done like on your phone. You can link up your PayPal, your debit, your credit card. Yeah. And it's just the easiest way to travel. It's just simple.
I think as well, if you've never used it before, there's a great deal of trepidation, and once you've used it a couple of times, you actually begin to realise that I only wish the local taxi companies around here were as reliable and actually as accountable, because you can actually you can watch them on your phone. And if you're in any Disney resort, you're going to get free Wi-Fi as well. And that free Wi-Fi allows you then to just keep tracking where exactly your car is.
Uber customer service is really good at dealing with issues as well. We've had a couple where we've had a driver not turn up. It works if you cancel it, you get charged a cancellation fee, but he was like resisting and just wouldn't cancel the ride. So we ended up paying that fee. Just took a sort of quick message to Uber using the app, and I got a refund straight away.
I found that as well. They're really, really good.
Lloyd, you have driven a lot, yeah? What's it like driving on the wrong side of the road?
Awesome. That's fine. It takes a few seconds to get your head around it. Okay. And I always say to Emma, just remind me when we get in the car to drive on the right, to drive on the right, to drive on the right, to drive on the right. But once you do that, it's really easy. And then they've got some really sort of logical like driving rules, like turning right on a red. Yeah. If there's nothing coming, you haven't got to sit there at the red light. You can safely turn that corner. And then this year was quite good because I had the Chevy Impala. I think it was a V6, so it was nice just to put my foot down, not going over the speed limit, but to go from 0 to 40. It was that was quite nice as well. So it's good fun. It's good. I've driven some big cars over there as well. It's good. It's a good fun to drive. If you're doing a long drive, the roads are nice and straight, so it's really easy. Just stick on the cruise control and relax a bit. And I am a fan of getting cars over there. I was only going to do it for half the holiday this time, but we decided to do it 2 weeks in the end because there's still ways to save money on renting a car. So Cabana Bay wanted $18 plus tax a night to park. I think the moderate ones, it's like 30 plus tax. It may be even more. But I emailed them in advance because, as John said, they're used to the American market coming in their cars and staying for 2-3 days. So they feel okay charging, $60 plus tax for 3 nights stay for parking. But I just emailed them. I said, I'm coming for 14 days. I want a car because I've got young kids. I'm just a bit put off by your parking prices. And then they just came back and said, "We'll tell you what, if you're staying for 14 days, we'll do it for $9 a day tax." So just halved it straight away. So
That's
seven.
brilliant, that, Lloyd.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, and and they were quite reasonable because I think they understood my point. I did say it was our anniversary as well in the email. I always like to put in something to pull at their heartstrings
Yeah.
a little bit.
Always helps.
Yeah,
Always helps.
but they reduced it to half, which meant, do you know what? I can. That was in my budget. I could afford the car for 2 weeks, and then
Spot on that.
I tend to I'll just check the price of the car. Every few weeks, and as we get closer to the holiday, every few days. And I tend to find Alamo Brits always stays the cheapest, but gets cheaper itself as you get closer. But this year, I think it was about 5-6 days before the holiday, someone recommended Auto Europe, who use Alamo, and I went on there. And I saved 50 quid, and I upgraded the car from a full size to a premium as well.
Yeah,
that was pretty good.
I think one of the things, Lloyd, as well, is a lot of people get locked into car hire. And then once they're booked, you can't change it. And I think if you have that flexibility, you can actually keep riding the market and then suddenly recognise where there is money to be made. I know I've done it in the past where you've cancelled 3 or 4 times, and then suddenly you're booked with the same company again simply because they've reduced the price. And you've just got to keep looking. And similarly, if you're booking a hotel, I've done the same this last summer with things that are booked through Expedia and ended up saving over £100 for just like 2 nights stay.
Yeah, it's definitely it's like shopping around. Don't feel if you've got free cancellation, you're not locked in. And talking to hotels, I think a little parking hack. I always sort of try and stay at a DVC, resort on DVC points, because that going forward, that's still going to be free parking because the owner of the points pays for the parking in their fees.
So that's good. I didn't realise that. Good one.
Yeah. So that's the past few years when we've stayed on site, we've done Animal Kingdom Lodge, we've done Saratoga Springs on this last stay, and it's free parking, and that's ongoing with DVC. So I think my first choice for Disney, especially with these parking charges, is going to be looking to rent DVC points. I think for an on-site stay.
I think another one, and I did check this up as I was researching for this particular piece, and I'm a bit loath to share it sort of widely, is the fact that if you still want to go to the boardwalk for something to eat of an evening, you can still go to the boardwalk hotel and you can still park for free. And not a lot of people know that. And it's a bit handy for Epcot as well. And we might.
Thanks to John, Boardwalk are now charging for all guests staying over 20 minutes.
I think you get 3 hours, don't you?
Yeah.
As a general rule, they give you 3 hours parking before they start thinking something's a bit fishy.
They're not coming to check up on you, Claire. I tell you that.
They will do now.
The little John caveat now and all the all disclaimers. Disney Springs still free to park as well. So if you're not tied into getting to the parks too early or not finishing at the end, park at Disney Springs.
Jump on the
and
bus.
Get the bus over. Yeah.
Don't give Disney ideas.
That is just.
I think they'll start charging at Disney Springs fairly soon.
Yeah, that's just too much faff. For me, that's just too much faff to basically go to Disney Springs, because the buses from there don't go straight to the parks; they go to the resorts.
Agreed.
So go to a resort,
but
and you've got to get
Contemporary's basically the park, isn't it?
Yeah, but they don't even start till about 10ish. I don't think so. Frankly,
it is 10.
No, not worth it. But anyway,
I agree with you, Jill.
Yeah. But anyway, we've only stayed on site. We don't drive, and we don't have kids. So for us, the transport is absolutely fine. Yeah. I can only really think of 2 times we had trouble with the buses. The rest of the time it was maybe 10 minutes, and then you have a nice 20-minute air-conditioned ride. Someone else is doing all the hard work. You can just sit back and have a little nap. Yeah. What's not to like?
I think if you're used to public transport like we are, particularly here in London, it's easy. It really is easy. It's if you're used to driving, then any public transport type system is going to be a bit of a bind.
But what about at the end of the day when you've watched the fireworks in the Magic Kingdom, and you walk out of the park just after the fireworks, and you are standing at the bus stop, and there is like a million people in front of you in the queue.
They keep bringing
back
bus.
to your resort.
Yeah.
It's horrendous. And
We
I
didn't
remember
really have that
I've
problem.
had some
No.
really bad experiences. Certainly, I say bad. It talk about moaning about something that's wonderful. At Epcot, the bus garage, the bus area at Epcot is in the sun. And I remember standing there about 3:30 in the afternoon in the middle of August, and it was unbearable. We waited almost an hour for a bus to turn up to take us back to Old Key West. It was horrible. And I just think, I can't be doing with that. I can't be bothered waiting an hour in the blazing sun for something that I'm going to be crammed onto and next to someone's sweaty armpit. And I can just jump in my car and get there in 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Flip side of that, though, Claire, I remember in 1990, we came out of Epcot at about 11:30 at night, and Mum and Dad had forgotten which area of the car park they'd parked in. So that was a long, long time, and several angry words between the two of them, trying to force some memory of, is it Goofy, is it Pluto?
And I think the other thing at Epcot, obviously, is you have to take it in turns to drive.
Yes.
I've got to say, Epcot is the best place to get an Uber and a Lyft to and from, because it really does change your whole experience. Especially when
we
you're
take it
off-site.
in turns. So
Especially off-site, it's just really, it becomes a different experience,
The downside I find of the bus is when it's like you get back to your hotel late at night, pitch black on the bus, and then they turn the lights on. It's like,
And blind you.
blind.
Yeah.
Especially if you manage to get a seat and you're having a quick nap.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I think that was a really interesting discussion. I'm sure there's going to be food for thought there and lots of discussions on the Dib as a result of that. But right now, in our lovely little boat, we certainly don't need a car. We're approaching the boardwalk, and we have a lovely view of the fireworks from the new show, Epcot Forever. Now, we'll get a chance to talk a bit more about that show in future episodes. I do wonder whether it's going to be as emotional as Illuminations was. Which brings me to our next topic. Those sunglasses on moments. The moments of the holiday that bring a tear to your eye and a lump to your throat. Admit it, we all have them. So, what are some of yours?
Can't be anything to do with your wedding or honeymoon.
No, I think for me it's got to be that last day at Magic Kingdom as you're walking out the park.
Oh.
It breaks my heart every time having to leave.
Oh.
Yeah, last time we left Magic Kingdom, a photographer decided that he wanted to get us to pretend to cry on each other's shoulders, and it wasn't pretending, no.
Oh.
One thing that really makes me start welling up is at the end of the Christmas, the MVMCP, there's a song that they play after the fireworks. And the first time we went, Peter used it to edit our video of that night. And so I just heard this song over and over and over. And the second time we were actually with friends. And when that song started to play, I just burst out singing it at the top of my voice, because you do in Magic Kingdom and nobody minds, nobody blinks an eyelid. And it was just really emotional to be there and hearing that song.
I had some trouble thinking of mine because there are lots. So I'm gonna be a bit cheeky and go to Disneyland Paris instead of Walt Disney World. And I just love walking down the arcades at Disneyland Paris. They're not at Disney World, but they just feel a wonderful place to be. They're nicely decorated. They are, and it just feels a nice, safe place, particularly when there's not that many people in. I just love the feeling and I love the atmosphere. I know that's an odd one, but I'm an odd person. So Yeah, that would be mine. The arcades down the side of Disneyland Paris in Disneyland Resort.
Mine's slightly different. They don't do it anymore, but it was the original welcome show at the opening of Magic Kingdom. As the train pulls in, the characters, you just know you're home. You just know you're.
Yeah.
Welcome.
I think you've got to have a heart of stone to not cry at that moment, to be honest with you, Ben.
Yeah.
Everyone I've ever spoken to who's watched the welcome show, the rope drop show on the train at the Magic Kingdom, if you look around, everyone's got their sunglasses on, even like the big burly blokes. They're the worst. They're bawling their eyes out. It's so emotional. You're bang on there, and I'm really sad that it doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah.
I think you've kind of hit on the head, though, why I like the arcades. It's because it feels like home. It feels like I belong. And I think
I feel like you should be singing.
Oh, I do. Don't worry.
Oh, yeah.
What about you, John? You must have something.
I do, and it's really, I could have gone with the welcome show. I certainly could have gone with the description of leaving Magic Kingdom for the last time. That's always like, you always feel as if you've got a golf ball sized lump in your throat. But my biggest sunglasses moment has always got to be just the one show that I've taken probably so many photos of, and yet the very last 2 or 3 minutes of it just completely crumble me, even if I've watched it 3 times in a day. And that's the Nemo show. Just become a sort of complete wreck, and I don't quite know why every single time. And it's just from that line where it's just sort of the Nemo and Marlin bit where they're just together, and it's the love your dad. From then on, I'm gone, and from the little wave as Nemo departs the stage and Marlin is just left with that huge sort of intake of breath as Nemo says, "Bye, Dad." Don't know why. It just does it, and I can't really understand, but every single time it's dreadful.
I have to agree with you, John. That's mine as well. I was going to go with the obvious, first step into the Magic Kingdom and the castle and stuff, but Finding Nemo is the one show that makes me cry. Like, I don't know why either. I just think it's so good, and I think it's the music and the lyrics and the songs that get me, because that's what get me in real life as well, like music. But yeah, the Finding Nemo show is the best show in Disney, and I know some people disagree, but that's
a lot of people disagree, Sammy, but I've got to say
me and you, John, we know the true story.
That's it.
John, you've just got me going now, just from your beautiful description of the last few minutes of the show.
Oh, Lloyd, no, don't, because it does it, and I've got to say, it is that moment, and I don't know whether it's because I've got 2 boys of my own. I can't begin to describe, and we've sat through the show. We've done like 3 shows back to back because we're a bit stupid like that, especially if it's raining on Animal Kingdom. It's quite good to come out of one show and then back in for the next one, and yet you sit there and you're just like, you're in absolute floods again at the very end of the show,
and you know it's coming.
You do. You can't.
No, I know.
How do you explain what happens? I really can't. And even when there's times where you know yourself that maybe, okay, last show of the day, yeah, okay, they all want to go home, and you sit there and you're just like, it just triggers something. I really can't. I've tried in all the things I've ever written about Animal Kingdom and everything like that. I've tried to describe it. I simply can't. There's no way. There's no real reason to it, and it's just the most beautiful thing. It really is.
There's so much heart in that show.
Yeah.
Like, and the acting is, they're acting with puppets, but the acting is still incredible. Like, there's just something really magical about it, I think.
Yeah.
There's a whole load of people at home listening, crying at this moment in time, sobbing into their phones, their laptops, their car radios. They've gone.
The bit that really does it, though, it's not anything everyone says. It's the wave. It's just a simple wave at the end.
Little fin gives a little wave.
Yeah.
I
get it.
Another
I get
one.
it.
We need a picture on our show notes.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
a little bit of the video with John sobbing in the background.
The Southwell segment I've already used somewhere else, so I can do that.
I think another one of mine from Disneyland Paris is not happening anymore, sadly, is the wonderful nighttime show Dreams that beat the socks off Illuminations any day. It was just a wonderful, wonderful.
That's Illuminations Disneyland Paris.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, just a wonderful, wonderful show. And the very beginning, when you have a child singing the second star to the right.
Yeah.
And to me now, it doesn't sound right unless the second line's in French. Because I saw that show so many times. And it was just really, really beautiful show, especially made for that castle. And you could tell the difference. It really was amazing.
I'm completely useless in any of these situations. My family will tell you I cry at everything. I'll cry at adverts on television. I'm useless. So for me, the one thing, and it's not one particular, experience at Disney World or Disneyland Paris or any Disney park. For me, it's looking at the kids, and when they, when you just get that little glimmer of magic, and you go, "Oh my goodness, they totally believe this." That moment.
Lloyd, what about you?
Clowns make me cry.
Is that because you're sad or in fear?
I can attest to this because it happened in Halloween Horror Nights.
I cried. I cried a little bit when I came out of the Clowns Horror House. Real tears. But Disney, it's music. It always strikes me like deep in the heart. Music, any sort of music. Like I'm not allowed to go and see the Halley at the Bridgewater Hall anymore because even if it's like music for the movies, it just strikes a chord with me. I'm like listening to the theme from Braveheart played by an orchestra and it sets me off. So I find in Disney, any sort of music that I recognize or my body recognizes kind of sets me off a little bit. So if it's the entrance music to Epcot or the entrance music to Tomorrowland or the theme from Soarin', it's kind of over the first couple of days, it's the realization that we're there, we're on holiday. It's that first bit of music I hear that I really recognize, just it sets me off a little bit. And the way we usually plan our trips as well, not plan, but the way it works out is we usually are going into Magic Kingdom. So 9 out of 10 times it is the Tomorrowland music, which sets me off a little bit. So I always have to stop on that ramp and just put my sunglasses on a little bit and stop for a second and give everyone a hug. Before we move on.
But there's nothing better than that, though, Lloyd, is there?
No, it's cracking. It's great, and especially the last few times with the boys there, I stop on that little bridge, hearing the music, and just you see my little shoulders going.
Yeah,
compose myself, and then move on.
Nah, that's good.
You mentioned that you like the Tomorrowland music the other day, and I purposefully listened to it rather than anything else. So it is amazing.
Yeah, it always seems familiar. They do change it here and there, but it always sounds as if it's the same. It's not the same as from the 90s, but it has sort of remnants of it, and I think that's what really strikes a chord with me when I hear that music. Same with the entrance music to Epcot as well. That always seems a little bit familiar. Yeah,
those two bits are very cool.
Yeah, and then Soarin', the way it sort of it picks up and then falls down into that lovely sort of middle melody. That's quite nice as well. Yeah, I think that just if I listen to that on YouTube, it gets me going a little bit, sets me off a little bit.
Oh, that was lovely. I have to say I'm getting a little bit misty myself, and so back on our friendship, we're waving bye-bye to Boardwalk and on to International Gateway. And as we meander towards Epcot, it's time to say hello to anyone else who's about to visit one of the parks. Or indeed, anyone who's celebrating anything else. Yes, it's the Mickey Mentions.
Our first Mickey Mention tonight is from Lee and Nicola, who are travelling to Walt Disney World in November, taking their son Jordan, daughter Tamsin and stepson Ryan for a fun-packed 2 weeks at the Magic. We hope you have a great time.
Yeah, have a great time, guys.
Our next Mickey mention tonight is from Snowball18 from the Dib, who'll be celebrating their birthday on 15th of November in Las Vegas. Happy birthday!
I have one from Ben and Becca, our very own wafflers. We are back to the magic for 12 nights, staying at the newly refurbished Coronado Springs. Very nice. We're not alone on this trip. We're being joined by some friends with their little boy. This will be the first time staying on site, and we have quick service dining planned to ensure we stay watered and fed throughout. We have lots planned from our visit to a galaxy far, far away, celebrating Christmas slightly early with MVMCP. You'll love it, guys. And our first live view of Epcot Forever. Yeah, have a great time, guys.
Yay.
Yeah, have a great time and enjoy it forever.
You'll love
I
it.
hope you have an awful time.
Oh,
Yeah.
Green is not
I'm
your
just-
colour, Sammy.
I'm just bitter.
How long ago was your last trip, Ben?
February.
Yeah.
Okay, so like 9 months.
Yeah. Not been too long, thankfully. I need a trip though.
Yeah. Disneyland Paris is coming quite useful,
Yeah.
breaking up the year.
I do hope for the next show you can come back and tell us a personal experience of Epcot Forever. Because having watched the opening night of it, it was just something quite special. And I don't want to give it all away. I think maybe in the next show we can have a real good discussion about it. And I'd really love to know what it looks like actually to actually be there. It'd be brilliant.
I've watched it quite a few times on YouTube, and I can't wait to see
Yeah,
it.
it'd be great. Have a lovely time.
yeah. Have a great time, guys, and everyone who is off to the magic soon. Well, meanwhile, we have finally docked at International Gateway, just in time to enjoy the last burst of the Epcot fireworks. Well, it's a good job we have extra magic hours because there's a Grey Goose slushie with my name on it. So, as we disembark, I would like to say thank you to all of our listeners. If you've enjoyed our wafflings, we would love it if you could rate and review our show. And if you'd like a Mickey mention on a future show, whether it's for a birthday, an anniversary, or your holiday, or even the big reveal, you can email us at themickeywaffle@gmail.com. You can also follow us on all the usual social media platforms, including Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Or why not pop onto Anchor and leave us a voicemail? If you'd rather voice your own Mickey mention and hear your dulcet tones over the air, why not record a little voicemail with your own Mickey mention and we'll play it for you. We'll be back next month and getting ready for the most wonderful time of the year. But until then, waffle on.